I hope that you can be present. You can be giving attention to yourself, and in doing so, perhaps tap into this new way of life. So let's just become present, and just allow ourselves to have the sense of this ability to be quiet. Feel your breath inside your body and sense the rhythm of this breath. Become aware of how this rhythm is not just the rhythm that gives life to your physical body, but in Hindi, in Sanskrit, this word pran means breath, but pran also means life, the living energy that we all are, that we reside at the center of the forehead. And when I become aware of this rhythm of the physical body, it also has a rhythm that is in unison with the rhythm of nature, the elements, and life itself. And you realize that there is no separation. When you realize that you really are this life, this living energy, then there is no separation between you and that which is outside of you. And in this realization, you and that which is outside of you is in harmony. And this brings a great calmness, a great peace. Thank you. Thank you for being present. Now, at this time when everything we ever knew has been turned upside down, right? In the beginning of the year, in January, people were making New Year's resolutions. People were making plans for their lives. And now, today, can you make a plan for your life? We've been not been able to get together for our morning meditations here since, well, in a sense, properly for a couple of years, but the small group that used to meet in these private houses that we have here, even that has stopped since the end of March. And now we're starting to go outside at a community hall. And so, you know, how long should we book for? And we say we just can. We cannot say, let's book the hall for 1 month, let's book the hall for 2 months. We just can't. So even to the village hall people, we have to say, let's just see for the foreseeable future, we can do something. If you can allow us to just book us in for a few weeks, and we'll take it from there. So it seems that every day people are glued to the television to see what the next rule the government's going to come out with, right? And so life has become so unpredictable. And so this has created a lot of uncertainty. What is it? What is the new way of being that, in a sense, it's not new? You know, what is the definition of new? Newness doesn't mean a creative way. Newness doesn't mean that it's never been done before. But I suppose newness simply means something that I haven't done before. And all of us, all of the situations and circumstances that we're facing ourselves with these days, this day and age, none of us have been part of any of that before. And so a new way of being. A few things that came to my mind, especially when I think about unpredictability of life. Life has always been unpredictable, but why is it that it wasn't such an issue? The reason why it wasn't such an issue is because the pace of life was still quite slow. The pace of life had a rhythm. It had a routine. It had some sort of discipline. But now the pace of life has become so fast that the fact that everything is changing, but the speed, because of the speed, we are not able, my sense is that because of the speed of life, we're not able to stay in that place where we can gather energy ourselves, where we can have clarity of some sort by just being so slow, being so patient, that as life moves on, as things change, it's okay. There are intervals that we find ourselves in. But at this moment in time, the pace of change is so fast that we don't seem to have the time to process what's gone on. And this is something, has been part of my experience, in that when you do a lot, when a lot happens, then you don't have time to process what happens. And when you don't have time to process, then you also compromise your learnings in that situation. And so we, in a sense, we've known, through the issues of the environment, through political issues, religion issues, all of these things that have been going on in our worlds, we know that in a sense everything is really on quite a decline. But we just carried on. But now we've been given an opportunity. And I think of this really as a gift in which we have to assess ourselves to say, to what extent I'm ready for all eventualities. And whether those eventualities are in terms of my physical health, whether it's in terms of relationships, whether it's in terms of my financial condition, whether it's in terms of the world, whatever, to what extent I am prepared for whatever it is that might come out my way. In India, in the scriptures, there is this whole story about Krishna guiding Arjuna at every step, giving him spiritual lessons in such a way that Arjuna is prepared at every step as to what he's got to do next. Sometimes it becomes very overwhelming for him, the work that he has to do on himself, the processing of thinking that he has to do to see how to deal with situations of life. And he just wants to put his weapon down and say, okay, God, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do the work anymore. And it says that Krishna says to Arjuna, hey Arjuna, even if you don't want to do the work, or you don't want to make the effort, Even nature and elements will make you make effort. And at this point in time, nature, elements, time, in fact, our own destiny is making us make the effort that we need to make. And so, what is this new way of being? What I was thinking about, even for my own self, I've lived in a retreat center, and so you would say a place of meditation and quiet and rest and reflection. Well, quite far from it. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but there was such a busyness of things. So much was going on, as Umang mentioned, 10,000 people throughout the year. And so we were constantly one event after another. And we were very enthusiastic. So we were happy to go along with the energy of that life was putting in front of us. And I could honestly probably say for my own self that whilst there was all of that going on, now I realize how much I too at that time needed to take stock of myself and my own energy, my own spiritual connection. Every day I have my disciplines and I was following a life of routine, but to really take stock and to allow time to build that energy inside myself, I probably didn't do it. And so, whether you have some sort of a spiritual some inclination and you've introduced something in your life, but now definitely the pace of life has to change for all of us. For me, the newness really is that my pace as in not just physical activity pace, but the pace is, can I slow down my thinking? Can I make my thinking more powerful? Can I make my thinking more meaningful? Can I make sure that every thought I have is a thought that is going to produce a result and an outcome? Or is it that I have thousands and thousands of thoughts? They say you have 60,000 thoughts in a day. So you might say, okay, you don't have 60,000 thoughts a day. But even if you have to achieve something, even when you have to do something, do you find yourself thinking so much about it that it's like you are constantly on the move inside your own head? But now my sense is that what we have to do is think less, think powerfully, think meaningfully. And, if you say, right, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I think it's not possible to not do something. In order for us to grasp not doing something, you have to do it so that you realize you mustn't do it. So it's not about saying to yourself, I don't want to do this or I will not do this. It is about saying, this is what I will do. And it's really about developing a practice where I am able to spend as much time as I possibly can, or create a routine for myself so that I spend my time in silence. But you might say, well, you know about that. But the silence that I'm talking about is a silence in which my mind is free from distractions. My mind is free from distractions of situations. My mind is free from distractions of people. My mind is free from the use of the devices, whether it's the phones or the computers or whatever it might be. To what extent I can really be able to sit and be quiet, but not just quiet. I think we have to go a step further now. And that is that in this quietness, how aligned I am with what's happening around me. How much there is alignment. That means my energy is is in tune with what is happening and what is around me. And when I say in tune, it means that if there's negativity around me, it doesn't mean that I see the negativity and become affected by it, or I'm searching to find out what's happening around me. But actually, my silent mind, my quiet mind can become touched by what's going on. No, Daddy Janki used to say to me, but those of you who know her very well, she will say, let your mind be such that you don't need to constantly be thinking about what it is that you have to do next. But let your mind be such that your mind becomes informed. Your mind becomes conducive to receiving the signals of what is to come next. This is a very powerful thing, where your mind catches the signal of what is to happen next, but what it is that you have to do next. This is a very, very powerful thing. And for this, my life, my way of living, my way of life has to become such that in my life becomes a life free from greed. And I'm specifically referring to greed because greed is very deceptive. No, any negativity that you have, there is the opposite end of the spectrum of that negativity. Greed, the opposite end of the spectrum of greed is happiness. When there is greed, there will be desires. When there is greed, there is expectations. When there is greed, there is a thought that me first. What I need comes first. And my mind is constantly looking out there to get something. Whether it's from people, from situations, from circumstances. Not only that, with greed, I never come to a place of sense of satisfaction, a place of contentment, a place in which I feel, I have whatever I need. I have a roof over my head. I have enough to eat each day, and I have enough to pay my bills, and that's enough. It's a very, very, very simple aspect of life, but it's actually a very powerful thing, because when there is greed, we also become deceived. We become deceived by our own selves. We become deceived by our own desires and our own expectations. And so you might say, I don't have greed. Greed doesn't mean to just hoard. Greed doesn't just mean to go out and buy stuff that you don't need. In fact, I'd challenge you, if you went into your home, if you went around your whole house and you had a clear out, and you say, I was going to say 6 months, but I'll let you off. I'll say a year. In the last year, what has not been useful in your house? How many black bags will you fill? Anything that you haven't used in 1 year. Normally, my own practice is 6 months. I regularly go through my stuff to find, okay, what is it that I don't have a need for anymore? So I'm giving you a year. Whatever it is that you haven't used in the last year, how many black bags will you fill? And why is it that you have it there? Why is it that when you see it and you can't put it in the black bag to get rid of it? This is the greed I'm talking about. Because what we are doing is that we're hoarding energies. You know, I don't know if what you're sensing, but whenever I don't have a huge place. I have one room basically, and my wardrobe, such a tiny little place. But that doesn't mean don't have too much. I could also say I have too much, and I could get rid of stuff, I'm sure. But whenever I have a clear out, it's like my thinking changes. The feeling that it's like I can breathe. It's like there is more air. Somehow there's more space in the area where I am. And so I think our new way of has to be, in order to be free from greed, in order to be altruistic, in order to think about how can I support others first, so that in doing so, I can have power. The place of power is not just stuffing my own self. And that's a metaphorically speaking, stuffing myself. I don't mean stuffing yourself with food. I mean stuffing my consciousness, having this consciousness of consuming all the time. There are subtle ways in which we consume. The consumer consciousness is even wanting to see more, to feel more, to hear more, to speak more, to be heard more. All of this consuming consciousness is where I base my internal state of being on the basis of external situations and circumstances, where I end up making external factors that which feeds me inside my own self. Now, today in our early morning lesson, there was a mention about contentment, and we spoke about this in our early morning class. That contentment is not like, okay, I got everything I want, now I'm content. Contentment is a virtue, which means that whatever I have, however much I have enough. And I can make do with what I have, instead of planning what is the next thing that I want, or my attention to be distracted outside of myself all the time. When my attention is distracted outside of myself all the time, then I'm in that consuming mode. Some of us are naturally extroverts by nature. I'm an extrovert. And yet I have an attraction to being introvert. And so introversion conserves my energy. Introversion shows me the beauty of my internal state of being. Introversion allows me to take stock of my own recognition and value for my own self. And so a new way, can I think about others first? We have this expression, you first. Do I always think about myself as to what I need and how much I need, or do I think about other people or others' need? And this whole situation in which where we feel so much uncertainty in our world, forget about the world outside, but in our own personal lives, there is this feeling of what is going to happen tomorrow to me, to the point that there is fear inside of what is to come tomorrow. But can I live my life on the basis of the fear of tomorrow? Then I'm eating up my present moment too. So what is a new way of being is where I'm not brooding over my past, where I'm able to say, whatever happened until now, I've learned from it, and I wipe the slate of my mind as clean as I possibly can. So at least consciously, I'm not bringing up the negative experiences of the past. And when things do come up, there are some things that will come up unconsciously, and the influences of the past will also emerge. But at that moment in time, I have to be able to be quiet, go inside myself, separate myself from that past, and really feel the present moment. I think our ability to prepare ourselves for our future lies in our ability to be present in this moment.